All right, and well, joining me to have a conversation this morning, I'm joined by Caroline Chege, who's a development leader, and also Bernard Wakoli. Thank you for joining us this morning, and Karibuni Sana. Now, of course, vasectomy is something which is probably new, especially to the African culture. However, we are in a developing world, and things evolve. Bernard, let me start with you on your thoughts on on vasectomy. I know many men would probably be very jittery about it and not too eager to, go ahead with a process like that.
Thank you very much, Mike, and welcome viewers. I think this is a very sensitive topic to discuss, especially in our African context. We realize that we live in a very conservative society, and men will not really want to go that way. But I still doubt the nature of awareness that is being spearheaded, because we tend to believe that there's so much information that is not yet given out there. So I think those who are championing this initiative, it's good to some extent, because it will ease pressure on the part of women in terms of, using contraceptives. And, women have had this burden for a very long time. And I think if men take up the role now to plan and control their families, it will come in handy. But we need a lot of awareness, especially in rural areas where people believe the wealth of a family belongs to, or is consummate
maybe with the number of children
that one has. So going there and telling people that vasectomy or the family planning pills for men can work and is useful is, I don't know how it will be taken, but there's need for robust awareness and sensitization.
Okay, Caroline, of course, I know the ladies would probably be very happy if they had the opportunity not to necessarily use contraceptives, especially those that have side effects. But then again, the level of awareness. What are your thoughts?
Thank you very much for having me on the show. My thoughts about vasectomy is that when it comes to children, it must be a joint agreement between the mother and the father, or the male and the female. So the vasectomy issue is not really a male issue. It is a family issue. So it should not be seen as contraceptives is a ladies or a mother's issue, and vasectomy is a man issue. It needs to be joint collaboration, because our children are our welfare as a nation. We must have structure and we must have planning. You'll find mothers who have 8 children and they talk about the burden, and it should not be a mother's burden. We must have structure in family planning, and we must be able to agree as a nation that family planning is for the good of our nation. It's for the good to be able to manage citizens, manage the quality of life of our children.
Right, and I think, Bernard, that is true in the sense that family planning is viewed sometimes as something that is not culturally accepted. But then again, it is something, if awareness is well out there, the reasons that surround family planning and the positive reasons for that matter.
Yeah, not necessarily the fact that is seen to be, looked in terms of culture, but also when we look at contraceptives, we see it in the spectrum of women. It will be very hard, especially for those parents who have girls or daughters, to go to the shop and buy contraceptives for your daughter, or discuss, in fact, issues of puberty, or issues of those contraceptives with your daughters in the house. So it's left for women.
It's left for the women to
look
do
at
that.
it. And we can also look in this matter in the wider space of issues to do with the menstrual hygiene management. This is something that has been left for women to discuss, but it's all embraced along the reproductive health nature of women. So if men, as Caroline is saying, if men can join the debate and look at it that a woman's health or the family health belongs to both parents, men and women, and young people to be involved in this debate of contraceptives, contraceptives, or menstrual hygiene, then we are going to demystify the myth and all this negative attitude towards...
Especially culturally. And I was listening to a program yesterday where they were talking about how effective it would be for men to even get to a point where they change diapers for the children. There was a man in West Africa who was carrying a child on his back, and of course he came under a lot of criticism from the men around him, saying, is he henpecked, is he harassed? But the other thing that was also in line with this was the male peel, which was being introduced not too long ago. Before I come to you, Caroline, your thoughts, would you entrust men with, that... With vasectomy, it's different because that's more or less done and permanent. But with a male peel, which possibly you're required to take every morning, would you, and do you think men could be trusted with that responsibility?
First of all, I'd just like to highlight that reproductive health in this nation is almost talked about in whispers. We need to speak boldly about sex education, about reproductive health. It doesn't have to be such. A lot of men would reject the male peel, or the women would reject because of lack of education, lack of awareness. We do not talk about sex education, about reproductive health, about family planning in... It is, as you rightly said, almost like a cultural taboo. So if we speak openly about these matters, if the church can embrace speaking about this in a very... We are not, of course, we are not condoning any form of promiscuity, but we are saying that it is important that we speak about to speak about it in an open way. Let us hear what the men have to say, because it is not a one-man person to decide whether the male pill is okay. It is a family issue, and at the heart of the family is the church. So the church has a responsibility to actually speak about it openly. We need to educate our young girls from high school. The young men also need to be educated. It's not when you're 40 years and you're a man and then you're told about a pill and you've never even understood what a pill is from the onset. Absolutely. So there must be understanding from the most grassroots level. Hule mtu wa mashinani anaelewa even the word, what does pill mean to him? Yes.
Bernard, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, what I wanted to contribute is that culturally there are those roles that are assigned to men and there are those roles that are assigned to women. And mostly in our African context, we realize that most of the family upbringing, children, housekeeping things are normally assigned to women. And this is something that has been there for a long time. And to try and reverse the cultures, there's need for, as Caro is saying, there's need for robust sensitization, especially in areas where men wake up in the morning and know that they are going to herd cattle or they are going to look for food for the family. And their role is basically to, as breadwinners. And women are, left in the house to look after the children. So if we can come up with awareness, not really talking about, this pill is for men, this pill is for women and all those kind of things. Because if we create awareness from the grassroots, then men will start changing, will have a mind change of what's happening around the world. And the situation now, as population is increasing very rapidly, and if the countries, or if Kenya as a country cannot be able to manage the soaring population, then it will be very, very difficult in the few years to come. Even to achieve Vision 2030 will be very difficult. That's why there's need for families to be manageable, and this calls for collective engagement between men and women to ensure that they have a manageable family.
And like Caroline started by saying, it is a family affair.
It's a family
but let's
affair.
move on to other stories, but still staying with human reproductive matters. Parties involved in the case by Dr. Kamau seeking legislation of female circumcision have been given more time to file their written submission. Caroline B. followed up in court and filed the following report.
At the Machakos law courts, where a debate to legalize FGM has been brewing, parties involved in the case have been given 21 days to file their affidavits as individuals or as a group before the hearing commences. This is after Dr. Tatu Kamau tabled a complaint saying she has received a lot of witness accounts and expert opinion, making it difficult for her to respond. David Kemei, the judge hearing the case, also gave the lawyers a 21-day deadline to file their submissions on whether the case should have a 3-judge bench. Kiplagat Arab Koech, who joined the case in support of Dr. Tatu Kamau, will also present his affidavits in 21 days. Kiplangat and Dr. Kamau have no legal representation. Outside the courtroom, anti-FGM activists held silent protest, flashing anti-FGM placards. The group is keen on having the anti-FGM law passed in 2011 upheld.
It is the law that protects everybody in Kenya, and that law should remain to make sure that our girls are not mutilated.
When I was in primary school, I was in the class that had girls who went through the cut. And right now, I can tell you for a fact that we are only like 3 of us who are in good places. They were married off.
Rajableti Pan, the legal counsel for Equality Now, one among the 10 interested parties, said they were determined to win the case.
Women should rise against FGM kwa maana hakuna benefit yoyote ambayo inatokana na FGM. FGM ina result kwa wanawake ku health yao inaathirika.
Men against the illegal rite of passage, including human rights activist Timothy Njoya, have rejected efforts to restore the female cut.
We are all created in God's image. Women are created in God's image, and where God fixed body parts, they should be allowed to remain there.
Kwa nini tusifanyie watoto wetu alternative rite of passage badala ya kurudi huko utamaduni ambayo tumeona wamama wamekufa, tumeona watoto wamekufa, tumeona jamii haijaendelea.
The case will be mentioned on 11th June 2018. Caroline B, KTN News.
Well, another sensitive issue there that borders, well, there's culture, there's religion, there is modernization. Let me start with you, Caroline.
I think Carol will be the right person to start on the debate.
And I can see you're also very well-dressed culturally, so...
Let us first off talk about FGM in the sense that this is mutilation. We talk about FGM as if it is a retrogressive rite of passage, not a progressive rite of passage. I am seeing men filled in that courtroom. I am seeing Caroline B in that courtroom, and I'm wondering, where are the young girls or where are the grown women who have gone through this form of mutilation? Have you heard about the death stories? They bleed to death. They get married at a very young age. Even some of them, even before they are teenagers, they are married off. Have you seen the consequences of this? Because rite of passage is a good thing. It is a progressive thing in many cultures. I come from Kajiado County, where rite of passage is looked upon as something that is very positive in the community. But can we have rites of passage that do not legitimize mutilation? Because as Joha rightly said, that God created us perfectly in his image. So mutilating a child is not beneficial to the society and to the community. And before people run to court, these are a lot of people who are learned, who are going to the court. Can you sit at the grassroots with the women? What are the women in the grassroots saying? What are the leaders? What are the community leaders in the community saying? Because I know that women who have gone through FGM, we do know that marriages have broken because of things like fistula. They cannot be able to regulate their body system. So the consequences are the negative consequences far much outweigh any benefit. I do not know there is no one benefit of female mutilation. There is no one benefit, and the consequences, the negative consequences far outweigh.
And I guess if we're to look at it culturally, when the women or the men were going through rites of passage, there were certain lessons that they were taught as they were going through that. But those lessons can still be taught without mutilating anybody's body. Bernard?
You are very right, Mike. I think Dr. Tatu has a very strong case. And this case can be handled without emotions and too much, noise out there. But having said that, it's also very important to look at the whole FGM issue in terms of culture. Despite there being laws criminalizing FGM, this activity still continues in those areas or regions that practice FGM unabated. As in, we have rates, I've seen some research findings talking about 98% in some communities, the Korea community.
Still going on.
Yeah, you go to Northeastern, it's happening, and there are laws. Where are the law enforcement agencies? Where are the police to arrest those who are perpetuating this issue? Because if the law is there, then law enforcement agencies are not working, then there's a problem somewhere. And when this act continues, as Carol has said, it gives young people or women, it doesn't give them opportunity to develop into productive human beings, productive people. in future in terms of education, because they are married off immediately after FGM, and you know, marrying at a tender age then reduces their chance of actualizing their dreams. My take on this will be, because in most of these communities, young men have been accused of not willing to marry women who are not circumcised. And if the awareness or campaign can target Morans, can target men in those communities that practice FGM, to enlighten them that uncircumcised woman is also a woman to marry, so that they can give these young girls time to complete schools and marry when they are mature enough. But if young men are not sensitized, because they still hold to the fact that a woman who's not circumcised is not old enough to get married, so she's still a kid. And to that extent, they don't really, the ladies don't look attractive to them.
As far as they're concerned.
These women, if they are not married, then it becomes a problem to the community again. So the campaign should target men without emotions, because what's going on in the court, human rights activists want to endear themselves to the benefactors, their donors, of how they are pushing this agenda. But after the courtroom, what happens on the grounds, in the grassroots, is a very, very different thing.
Just to add on what he's saying, the only way to curb FGM is not even, yes, the bills are there, the policies are there, but is it being looked at a holistic approach? You know, you must deal with the community leaders, the community gatekeepers, the chief, the police, the public administration, you know, the young people, the old people, everyone must be put on board. But if you target just one or two groups, if it's just the police and the law, then it will not work.
And
it must be dealt with in a
what we're saying here is that
approach.
even with civic education, the enforcers, first of all, need to understand the dangers around it. Then secondly, buy in. Because like you're saying, the laws are there. It's already against the law for FGM to be performed, but it's still happening.
Yeah, Mike, it's very unfortunate that we have some of the law enforcers who actually promote this act. Because you'll find that some of these people, like police, who have grown up in this culture,
it's part of their culture.
It's part of their culture, it's part of them. So they will even hide those people who want to do those, who want to act FGM. So we need to actually include, it should be a multi-stakeholders approach to address this issue of FGM. And we can also start debating of male genital mutilation. And see
but that has health benefits. And I guess, according to the lawyer, the good lawyer there, she actually is putting her case forward, saying that it is discrimination. Why is it that men can go through that?
That's why I said from the beginning, Tattoo has a very strong case, and it needs to be argued with the facts presented in court, not emotions. No, because people are going there saying, "Oh, people are suffering, girls are dying." You know, you need to give facts, you need to give evidence, you need to give all these things without emotions.
Without emotions. All right, and that brings us to 23 minutes after. This is Morning Express. In case you're joining us now, we're just about to take a short break, but do stay with us. We'll be right back with more stories making headlines.